All humans are born as entrepreneurs. Some just didn't have the chance yet to realize that they have that capacity too. This famous quote by Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate and pioneer of the social enterprise movement, perfectly captures the essence of what this next session is all about, on the power of purpose-driven entrepreneurs. My name is Matthias, and I have the pleasure of being your moderator. I'm also part of the team behind ChangeMakerXchange, a global support network for young social entrepreneurs, activists, and innovators in 130 countries. And we have the pleasure every day to see the impact and the excitement that these entrepreneurs create and bring to the world. We also do see, though, the challenges and the hardship that come with being an entrepreneur. So in today's session, we really want to look at it from many different perspectives, and it is my great, great pleasure and honor to be welcoming one by one and through different parts of this session 5 wonderful speakers, individuals, and entrepreneurs. And without further ado, I'm extremely happy to welcome Alexandre Mars on stage, the president and CEO of Epic Foundation, blisce, and Infinite, an entrepreneur, investor, among others, in Spotify, Headspace, Too Good To Go, and a philanthropist. And in my briefings as a moderator, I ask people to share with me a little personal detail to humanize the speakers a little. And Alexandre is a Krav Maga practitioner, that is a sort of martial arts, and he was also an ambassador for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Alexandre, please come on stage and tell us a little bit about your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm always thrilled to be at ChangeNOW, even more this year, because you know this year ChangeNOW came back here in this beautiful venue. Why we came back here? Because for a few years, the Olympic Games took place and built something pretty unique. And I want to start with the Olympic Games. Matthias said it. I was lucky enough and honored to serve as a board member and ambassador to the Games. We will talk about how we beat the impossible. How can we make the impossible possible? And I will start with the Olympic Games. I served there for 10 years. And I can tell you, in 2015, when everything started during the Olympic and Paralympic Games, a lot of people said it will be impossible. Impossible to be on time, impossible to be on budget, and impossible to be innovative. This is the Olympic Games. Who came to this venue during the Games? Can you raise your hand? Who watched the Games? Can you raise your hand? Who liked the Games? Can you keep your hands up? Yes. So we proved something. We proved that it will be possible. It will be possible. And that's the world we live in. Most of the time, people, sometimes for good reasons, they said, it's impossible, don't try. I started my first venture when I was 17. And I can tell you, since day one, I got people who said, it won't be possible. And I remember, I think it was my third startup. I was about 23 years old, and it was in the mobile industry. And I had this line to a lot of people. I said, you will see one day soon, the first thing you will do in the morning when you wake up is not to kiss your loved one, is to check your phone. People told me at the time, I would never do this. It's impossible that when I will wake up in the morning, I won't cuddle my loved one, I will kiss my loved one. Let's be honest. Can you raise your hand if this morning, the first thing you did was to check your phone? Can you raise your hand? You're not honest, please. Or you need more exercise, I don't know. But that's what it's about. And people told me, again, it won't be possible. After you do what you can do. And the reason why I started so early in my life as an entrepreneur is because I want freedom. And I'm sure, and I know some people here, some of you believe in entrepreneurship as an act of freedom. We know sometimes it's not freedom at all, be an entrepreneur. Still, the freedom came when I sold this business. It was in mobile industry. I sold it to one of the largest, now it's the largest advertising group in the world called Publicis. And I got enough. I mean, enough in terms of money. And then I said, it's time to do something else. And since I'm pretty young, I knew that the minute I would have enough, I would spend most of my time being of service, doing good. And during those years, whereas I was running tech startups, I was building my bucket list. You know the bucket list, I'm sure some of you had a bucket list. It's not a to-do list. It's not what I need to do by Friday or by Sunday. It's what I want to achieve as a human being on this planet. And during all those years, I was building my bucket list. And the three main items on the bucket list was first, being in the special forces. So Matthias, you mentioned Krav Maga. So that's what I want to do. Two, I love history. So I want to be a history teacher. And the third one on my bucket list was to be a social worker. And that was my plan. For a set of reasons, I picked the last one. And I said, that's what I will do. If I want to be of service, I will be a social worker. And I started meeting a lot of different people. And during those meetings, I met someone, and he asked me one question. And that's the question I want to ask you today. He said, Alex, you want to be a social worker. You want to give warm food in the streets of, I was living in New York at the time, in the street of New York, or wherever you live. But how many people can do this? The question is, everyone can do this. You don't need to have your own skills or strong skills. You need to take care of other people. You need to have this empathy. So the question was different, is what is your uniqueness? What you will leverage the uniqueness for good? And to be honest, my uniqueness is to be a good entrepreneur. I know pretty well running a business. And that's what I decided doing. So that was almost 10 years ago, and I started Epic. Epic started with this, saying to people, there's something I don't understand. I don't understand how and why so many people have money and influence, and they don't use it. They don't share. They don't give. They don't act. How? And I was surprised. And I said, maybe we should try to change the giving. What people told me at the time, I'm sure you know this, Alex, it's impossible. Don't bother. It won't change. At least, no, let me try. Let me talk to people. So what I did at the time, I did the market research. I spent a lot of time with people, like people today, asking questions, very simple questions. And I will ask the two questions to you today that I asked 10 years ago before starting Epic. Can you raise your hand, again, I know it's a lot of exercise, if you have given time or money to any social organizations, any nonprofits? Can you raise your hand? Yes. We're at ChangeNOW. I'm sure it's everyone. No, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up if you believe you have given enough money or time. Yeah, 1, 2. Look around you. Not many. Yes, thank you. And then we are at ChangeNOW, which is the center of good people, right? And what we have realized in 10 years ago, wherever I was going, I got the same answers. People told me, Alex, I wish I would have given more, but that's not the case. Then I said, okay, maybe we can understand why. And that was the start of the Epic journey, starting with an impossible to something totally possible. What I mean by possible, after 10 years of running Epic, we have mobilized, it's the 10th year anniversary this year, we have mobilized more than $100 million. We have changed the trajectory through just Epic of more than 1.5 million people. So yes, it's doable. A lot of work, but it's doable. I just mentioned and talk about money. And in the world we live in, money is key. So we grew up in the world, I grew up in the world, but I know most of you have grew up in the same world, where the Wolf of Wall Street, have you watched this movie, The Wolf of Wall Street? Yes. This Wolf of Wall Street was always the winner, always. The bad guy doing bad things for the ecosystem, for the planet. Do you think this is the guy who said this? No. Who said this? Milton Friedman, this iconic economist. Iconic because in all the colleges I think you did attend, it was a star. It was the guy saying, that's the way we think about the world of tomorrow. That's the business today. Can we accept this? Can we accept that people can imagine and we learn and we teach this to our kids? No way. But that was the kids and the teachers were teaching students for years. What this is about? This is about positive finance. And positive finance, when we started this, was an oxymoron. An oxymoron that most people say it cannot go together. You cannot talk about positive and talk about finance. It won't work together. People told me when I started Blisce 10 years ago, it's impossible. It's impossible. Again, don't bother. Finance is finance. Fine. Say no. Finance is key. We have to change this. I think what people didn't realize 10 years ago, and that's what I'm seeing here today, entrepreneurs have changed. Yes. Entrepreneurs will still want to be successful. Yes. But the definition of success is different. The definition of success to you has to be different. You want to be successful, but you want to also to have a positive impact. I will give you one example. One. Too Good To Go. Have you ever used Too Good To Go here? Can you raise hands? Yes, I can see yes. 2 hands up. So Too Good To Go is a perfect example. They are fighting food waste. Food waste. And they are so successful. They are making more than $200 million of revenues this year. $200 million of revenues. They are cash positive. They work in 19 countries. It's led by a woman. It's a B Corp, and so on and so on and so on. Those businesses, maybe 15 years ago, maybe were never existed. Nowadays, you find more and more Too Good To Go. That's what it is. And that's what we build Blisce. Blisce has been the first B Corp investment firm. And we back the Too Good To Go of the world because they do exist. And we are able to prove a point. It's no longer an oxymoron. You can do good, you can back the right entrepreneurs, and you can be successful. By success, let's talk about numbers. Blisce has deployed more than $500 million of money in the last few years. They have more than 25% net returns year over year. And at Blisce, we're able to back the Too Good To Go of the world. So yes, you can do both. That's finance. And we talk about tech when we talk about finance. But innovation is not only about tech. Sometimes people are telling me, oh, it has to be tech. We need to put AI, deep tech, everywhere. No, it is not true. And let me give you an example. And now let's talk about just Infinite. Infinite is my latest startup. And it's about student loans. It's a social ed tech, but it's a startup itself. Everything started 3 years ago with a conversation with my oldest son. He was about to turn 18 at the time, and he told me, Dad, I want to go back to the US for my college. I said, that's wonderful, Louis. I'm super happy, but I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, we'll pay for your college. We'll pay for the tuition. He said, Dad, I was hoping that Mom and you can do this. Okay, you answered well the first question, but I have the second question for you. One of your best friends, Jan, who lost his dad when he was 6. His mom is a Spanish teacher. He's as clever as you, but he doesn't have the means. How you will get to the best schools in the world? You know the answer. He will never. Never. Or, if he is able, he's very, very lucky. And then I said to myself, how can we change this? How can we change student loans? I grew up in the world where student loans didn't work for so many reasons. Maybe we can do something. And then people when I told we'll do something in student loans, what they told me, Alex, it's impossible. Let's try. And this is the model of infinite. Super simple. Let's take that you will finance the best student, 30 kilometers from Clermont-Ferrand. The best one, best from his high school. It would say, now you won't go to the University of Clermont-Ferrand. If you can go to Bocconi, Oxford, or HEC, we'll finance it up to 20K per year. But no guarantee attached, and interest-free loan. No banks can do this. But the minute this student, so clever, will go and will finish his study and will get his diploma from Oxford, and he will be hired by the best ones, he will pay back. But he won't pay back to you, sorry. But he will pay back to an evergreen fund that will finance the next students. So you remember the Ponzi scheme? You remember the Ponzi scheme, right? We just have reinvented the Ponzi scheme with zero technology, just innovation, just spending time with people with knowledge, just spending time with people and tell me why it's not working, and maybe we'll do something positive out of this. That's infinite, and now it's dozens and dozens of students. We'll go to the best schools, and we'll be able to work now in the best organizations in the world. So that's what I want just to share with you about how can we beat the impossible? Because the impossible is always there. It's there because, no, it's hard because people will always try, for always good reasons, maybe tell you things that you want to hear. So that's my piece of advice. When people will tell you it's impossible, don't listen to them. It's an easy one. Smile back, and believe in your dreams, because that's what we are doing and what we want to achieve in the world of tomorrow. And I will leave you, and I'm on time, and I will share two things. One, this world from Mark Twain, because now we are trying to rationalize the impossible. Sometimes you don't know it's impossible, and that's what Twain said. And if you want to listen to stories of people who make the impossible possible, if you like listening to podcasts, listen to this podcast, not only because it's mine, but again, it's because we are interviewing great leaders, people, artists, entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs. We're saying also, that's how I've done it. And it's just the opposite of Instagram. That's the goal of my podcast, Pose. It's everywhere. It's just the opposite, because on Instagram, it's not real. And what we're trying to achieve is sharing what is real to a lot of different people. You can get all my details here. Thank you again so much to have listened carefully. And thank you again, ChangeNOW, for this wonderful day. And I hope you enjoy the panel after. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Entrepreneur at age 17 and now backing the next generation of entrepreneurs. And we're going to see three wonderful individuals in just a moment on stage. And I'd love to welcome Bukola, Fionn, and Alexandra to join me on stage to hear a little bit about their stories, their successes, and their challenges. Wonderful. Thanks for being with us, first of all, and thank you too for your time. We have to my left Bukola Bolarinwa, originally from Nigeria, the founder of the Ghimire Health Initiative that focuses on improving the access to blood donations in Nigeria and across Africa. We have Fionn Ferreira to my very left, who is an inventor, a chemist, and a change maker, and behind the Green Journey Coalition. And in the middle, we have Alexandra Mont, the founder of ENDOless. And again, in my briefing, I asked people a little personal fact, just for your own enjoyment. And Bukola here has actually written a cookbook. And Alexandra here used to be a pastry chef. And believe it or not, Fionn has a planet named after him as a prize for winning a science competition at school. So they're much more than just their entrepreneurial ventures. But let's start a little bit with the why do you do what you do? Let's make it a short and sweet round to start with. What is the why of what you do? And we'll then dive a little deeper.
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much for having me. The why for what I do is based on my personal experience as a patient. So I kind of came into the health space on the other side, having been the recipient of lots of healthcare as a child, because I live with a condition called sickle cell disease, and that was my main motivator, seeing those gaps from the patient's perspective.
Wonderful. Alexandra?
For me, my idea was built actually from my pain. I suffer from endometriosis, and I realized that I wasn't alone, and I wanted to help as many women I can to feel better and to be heard and like to pay so that the pain can finally have answers and solutions.
And for me, I feel like a lot of people, when like I fight microplastic pollution, right? People would say it's because I want to see the happy whales and the happy fish in the ocean, but I'd be lying if I said that. For me, I invent and I'm a scientist because it's a lot of fun. And I just really enjoy the process of inventing and going to the lab every day.
Thank you so much. Buki, you focus on improving access to blood donations in Nigeria, right? When did you realize that this was your calling? And do you have any advice for anyone in the room how to kind of find that within you or in the outside world? How did you stumble upon this, and what was the initial spark to get started?
Yes, thank you. So I started working with my friend called Nkechi Azenge through an organization called Sickle Cell Aid Foundation. We just kept thinking, there's so many people that live with this condition in Nigeria. What is it that we can do to improve their lives? And so for us, it was more a case of we've been privileged to be able to receive good health care. And there's so many people who don't have that. And our main thing was, how do we make sure that there's equitable access to healthcare for people living with this condition? So for us, it came from personal experience living with the condition and having had that privilege, knowing that not everybody has that.
Yeah, that is a common theme, if I may say, from my own work with entrepreneurs, to tap into this personal story, into experiencing it yourself. Alexandra, your venture focuses on running an AI-driven application and much more. That's a simplification that helps women with chronic gynecological conditions. What made you go into this field, from pastry chef to AI-driven applications? What sort of sparked your entrepreneurial power?
Like, funny story, I never wanted to become an entrepreneur. I always wanted to work for large corporations and like to have a secure future without like holding all this responsibility I have to hold today, because honestly, it's hard. And
we'll get to that, yeah.
And the thing which actually pushed me to quit my job, because I used to be a project management consultant. That's how I use AI and everything. One day I woke up and I had to decide if I want to go to my work or I would like to take care of my health. And that moment I stopped, because I don't think it's normal that in this life, in this world, in like 21st century, we have to choose between work, career, and health. So that's when I started.
Okay, I hear another story of something that you've personally experienced and that you turned around into something that would positively affect the people around you, not just yourself.
Yes, totally. I was feeling really like broken, like I was a mistake of the world. And the more I started speaking with people around me, I realized that I'm not alone, but we don't speak about women's health.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you've had some hardships there, but big kudos for turning it around into something really positive. And we'll dive a little deeper. Fionn, your work is focused on eradicating microplastics from the ocean, focused on getting the plastics out of the nature in our ecosystems. What made you stumble upon this? What sparked your entrepreneurial journey? Take us to that moment, if you can.
So I grew up in a pretty remote place in West Cork in Ireland. And there by the seashore, I mean, Ireland has lovely weather sometimes. So in those lovely days, I would go kayaking and sailing and exploring the wilderness. But when the weather wasn't so good, I would go home and play with my Lego kit. And for me, it just felt wrong to see a lot of plastic on the seashore. But it took a really long time for me to feel initiative to do something about it until I realized it's actually causing harm, right? Litter looks bad, but I found it difficult to realize that it caused harm until I realized that we're all drinking about 20 grams of plastic a week in the water that we drink. Probably right now, while I'm saying this, you're breathing in a couple of micrograms of plastic. So maybe don't hold your breath till the end of what I'm saying now, because in 2 minutes you'll be dead. But just be conscious of what you're breathing. And that's why I decided, well, nobody seems to be doing anything about this. I'm interested in this. Just like my Lego kit, I wanted to try and invent and see what I could do. So I kind of stumbled into invention. And then later, when I invented something that worked at 16, I thought, well, maybe it's time to actually turn it into something that makes a difference. And building my own business seemed to be the best path forward.
Yeah, thank you for taking us back to that moment. And all of you do have sort of an incredibly tough challenge to not just manage a business and a venture and doing all the things that any kind of initiative has to do, but you're also tackling really complicated societal and environmental issues that are by their nature already very complex. Maybe starting with you, Buki, take us to a challenge that people might underestimate on this journey of being a purpose-driven entrepreneur and how you may have overcome it. What are things that really bother you, that you keep hitting your head against, that are tough?
So I don't think we have enough time for me to go into every single thing. But if I was
The list is long, probably.
The list is so long. And I started my journey running an NGO. And it was from running an NGO that I decided to pivot and go into social entrepreneurship and then start the entrepreneurship journey. And it was really different for me because I had to then think about how to run a business, right? From coming up with the idea of what the business was, which for us was medical logistics and blood donation and moving blood between hospitals and labs, and then pitching it to people to be able to get money to start, hiring the staff, going to the different businesses that we were going to be working with and telling them why they needed this service. So I went from an NGO, which was essentially supporting people who was living with the condition, to that part. And I must say that it doesn't really, I thought that because I had run an NGO for a really long time, I was really prepared for entrepreneurship, but it's a totally different journey, having to think about efficiency, operations, profitability, and it almost feels like you're not prepared for that journey. I would say that for a lot of people that are thinking about it, I feel like no matter how many textbooks you read or how many YouTube videos, until you actually start and you get into it and get your feet wet, you don't really know what you're going to be up against. And so for me, the biggest lesson and the biggest learning has been doing, learning, making mistakes, and reiterating every single time.
Yeah, well, just doing it, that's the right spirit. And I hope you have a supportive community around you that holds you in the harder moments. Fionn, same question over to you. What is something that you're like, I wish this wasn't so hard, I keep bumping into this, it makes my life more difficult than it should be out there fighting a good cause?
Well, I think this is kind of a twofold question, right? For me, first of all, I'm young. So I'm 24 years old now. I started this entrepreneurship journey a little bit earlier than a lot of other people. So trying to convince scientists who have PhDs and lots of published papers that your scientific invention that you made while you were 16 in a garden shed in Ireland where there was no internet connection is actually something that people can use was really difficult. But actually, I think a bigger challenge, and one that I face almost every day, is the one of realizing that I'm a scientist and the thing that I enjoy the most is actually being in the lab and inventing and playing with science and engineering and screwing things together, and not necessarily trying to find investors and different business-related things. So the most difficult thing for me is actually realizing that I'm not good at everything in a business, and that actually you kind of have to give your baby over to a group of people and realize that you find what you're best in yourself, and you don't spread yourself too thin, but instead focus on actually having a really good time and enjoying yourself.
So delegation is key, I hear there, as part of the message as well. Alexandra, again, over to you. What is something that you're like, why is this so hard?
Actually, like what you're speaking about not draining yourself thin, etc. I didn't have this problem because I used to be a consultant. So my job was to find good people for good places, to do as little job as possible. So it helps me a lot right now in my founding life. But actually, as the purpose-driven startup which focuses on women who were underheard, like who were ignored through the history of time, the hardest part is to not stop believing in yourself, because there will be a lot of people who will be telling it's useless what you are doing. It will serve to no one. There is already something which exists which solves the problem. But like, you need to remember that you're not a $10 bill. You're not supposed to be pleasurable for everyone. And you just need to believe in yourself, and you need to find the people who will believe in you and believe in your mission, and like surround yourself with people who will support you, because it's really sometimes it's getting lonely, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alexandra. Thank you. Maybe a very quick round, going from the challenges to the joy. What is something that brings you a lot of satisfaction and joy in your work as entrepreneurs? And let's maybe keep it to very short and sweet answers, whoever wants to go first, in sharing a little bit about what makes your heart jump and you're like, oh my God, I'm doing the right thing here. This is fun. This brings me joy. This brings me fulfillment. Can you take us to one or two of these moments?
I will start. Actually, today was the most amazing moment this morning when I spoke with a few doctors, and they told me, oh my gosh, finally someone is trying to do something, someone is trying to change the things how they are, someone is questioning the status quo. And I see all the journey I had done since the beginning of the company, and that it actually starts to pay the fruits. Like, I'm here with you today, and I started the company not even one year ago.
Yeah.
So
wonderful.
Seeing the results and seeing the people saying thank you for what I'm doing.
Cookie?
So for me, recently there was a lady who had sickle cell disease, and she was pregnant. She was about to have a baby, and she needed several pints of blood. She contacted us, and we were able to get her the blood that she needed. And she sent us a picture of her baby afterwards, and she said, thank you so much. You helped make this happen. And those little moments are really what sparks joy for us, knowing that you help alleviate some of the challenges that patients are facing within, the various journeys that they're having in the healthcare space. So for me, every time we get a positive feedback from a patient or from a hospital or from a lab saying, thank you for providing this service, it makes it worth every single kind of hardship that we face.
Okay. Yeah, Fionn?
Well, I would be lying if I said I wouldn't find it really cool every time I remove microplastics from water using a magnet and watching it suck them out, which is cool, of course, but what I really, really enjoy is something relatively new. I started a TV show where basically I bring young people into a scientific studio. They have to come up with ideas, they have to build them in a workshop, and actually giving people that sense that they're able to solve a problem with the limited tools they have, and having this kind of aha moment and facilitating that for them for sometimes the first time, I think is one of the most empowering things I've experienced in a very long time.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's stay on the impact level a little bit. Can you tell me just, again, in a bit of a rapid fire round, maybe a little anecdote or something where you were like, oh, this is actually working. Like, I'm doing something that does create tangible change, which is all that it's about when it comes to purpose-driven entrepreneurship. Maybe, again, starting on my left.
I think for us, it was actually working. We work with the Lagos state government, and having the state government actually come to us and say, the work you're doing is really amazing, it's really impactful, and we appreciate the partnership. For us, it's real validation, because sometimes when you are trying to solve a problem, at least in our kind of space, the challenges in the healthcare space can be so overwhelming. But for us, just sticking to this very small part of it and having that acknowledgement from the partners that we're working with, that the work that we're doing is impactful, and hearing the feedback from the patients, for us has been the aha moment to let us know that, okay, we're actually onto something, we're actually solving problems.
Do you feel you're supported by the authorities, and are they
For
slowly
us,
getting
yes,
used to adopting your
definitely,
solution?
Definitely. We definitely are enjoying our partnerships with them. We're seeing them also starting to kind of adapt technology that we've been trying to push, because for us, our governments are really slow to adapt technology. They like to do things very manually and kind kind of repetitively. So I think through the partnerships with us, they are also starting to kind of move towards that angle. And so for us, those are the tangible differences that if we were ever to stop working, we would say that we left that behind.
Yeah. Maybe over to you, Alexandra, getting the support that you need, and whether yes or no, also a little story of where you feel like you're making a real impact.
It's actually, like, in terms of support, it's interesting because since I started my journey and it was really incredibly hard, I feel like the ground is constructing itself in front of me. Because in terms of resources, we get the support. In terms of team, I'm surrounded by amazing people, and I can't thank them. Like, I don't have words to thank them because I haven't yet got the funding round, so I have no money to pay my team, and still the people are next to me working hard and helping me. Unfortunately, France haven't gave me enough support yet, but I think it will change. However, people, like individuals who are surrounding us every day, they are just amazing. And you never know whom you meet, and just by being kind and spreading the kindness, sometimes you just, like, the road constructs itself, honestly. Yeah. And for the moment, like, which makes me moving forward is speaking with like future customers, like the women who suffer, who don't even suffer, but who asks a lot of the questions about their health, to see their eyes like sparkling and saying, finally you're trying to advocate for us, finally someone is trying to understand us, finally someone is working on the research. And user interviews. It's the hardest and maybe the most rewarding thing, because women speak about their pain. It's the hardest part of my job to make these user interviews. But I really hope that one day I can say that I helped to reduce the pain.
Yeah. And feel free to sneak in a little call to action. We're at ChangeNOW, so looking for a seed round, I heard that between the lines.
I'm looking for a seed round. We're opening the seed round on Monday, and we're taking advantage of ChangeNOW to find investors who are also impact-driven and who believe in a better future, where women and other women parts are not silenced.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Fionn, something where you were like, you described to us, and maybe you could just spend 30 seconds on quickly explaining your innovation with the magnet taking microplastics out of the ocean. What is impact that you see in your work and in your world?
Wow, I didn't expect I'd be giving a chemistry lesson at ChangeNOW like I was doing in ETH 3 days ago in Zurich. But essentially my method is quite simple. If you've ever made a vinaigrette, you've mixed vinegar and oil together and you've noticed that the oil floats on top. And using this hydrophobicity, we can actually harness those forces because plastics and oil are both non-polar, but water is. So I've generated a liquid, a bit like an oil, which is magnetic, which can attract plastics out of water. It sticks into this liquid, and then once the liquid is saturated, you can remove the plastics from the surface using some magnets. And perhaps the best support I've received...
Just scoop it up. Yeah?
Just scoop it up with a magnet. So you just hold a magnet in and they get attracted out. It's pretty cool. And perhaps the best support I've received for this has been through the people who supported me really early on. So I think certain people gave grants to us at a very early stage when I was literally playing with this in my backyard at home. One of the notable people was Robert Downey Jr. and his Footprint Coalition. And they were literally open to give us a grant without a big grant application, just to see where that idea would go. And I think that's really inspiring because I'm not sure if I would be doing that, but I think we all should. So the people who believe in scientists in a really low stage where you don't actually know where the science is going to go, I think those people should really get a big shout out.
Yeah, backing people with a big ambition very, very early on is so crucial to kind of get it going. And if there was no support, then we wouldn't see many of these wonderful innovations. Would you do it all over again, knowing the challenges that you run into as entrepreneurs? Would you do it the same way? Would you do it again? Or would you just say, oh, let me sit back a little and relax and see how this all unfolds? Do it again? Yeah?
I think it depends on when you ask me. If you ask me on a Monday, I'll say yes. Ask me on a Tuesday, I might say no.
And yes again on a Wednesday?
And on a Friday, I might say yes again. It really depends. But honestly, truly I would. And similar to your shout out, I actually want to shout out CXC because I joined CXC just around the time I was starting Ghimire. And there's something about taking part in those programs with other social entrepreneurs that makes you feel validated in your ideas. Exactly what you were saying. Sometimes when you have an idea and you just have somebody backing you, it gives you that edge, it gives you that spur to go on, and it pushes you. But yeah, for me, I would absolutely do it again because it's something I'm passionate about. It's I live with a condition that's a lifelong condition, so I'll forever be a patient in a way. And for me, improving the healthcare system is always going to be something I'm going to do in one way or the other, even if I'm not running this venture again in the future.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for not giving up. I'm sure all the people that benefit from your innovation, thank you. For a very long time. Would you do it again? Yes or no, or different?
Yes, I will do it again, and the only difference, and the only thing I would change is to believe in myself more and listen less to the criticism and to all the people who says that it's useless what I'm doing. Because if 10 women need it, means it's not useless.
Fionn?
Absolutely. I would do it again. It would probably take me about half the time now. But I think all of you should do it again, or start it if you haven't already too. I would just say start messy, start unpolished, start scared, but definitely start, because if you think about it, probably your unpolished, messy, scary idea is a lot better than any one of those super fancy business plans out there.
But there are no perfect projects. The perfect project don't exist, so just start messy, do something, and you will see.
I would disagree with that. I would say that the project is always perfect, depending on the way we look at it.
Since project management professional, I cannot agree with you, unfortunately.
In the networking area, you can discuss that at detail. Perfect segue to my very last quick question. I shared a quote with you all in the audience at the beginning from Mohammed Yunus about how we're all born as entrepreneurs, but we may not have realized yet that we do have the capacity for it as human beings. What is one thing that you would recommend to everyone that sits on these chairs right now in the audience thinking, I should just also do it, I should start that little thing, I should follow that impulse, if you haven't already, starting on my left and going to Buki, maybe just a short and sweet answer to this. What is one thing you'd recommend?
So perhaps one of the best things that was ever told to me was, if you're not scared, you're not thinking big enough. So it's okay if you're scared about your ideas. That's the way you should be. What's not okay is that you're not turning them into action. So turn them into action now.
Okay. Being scared is okay, but taking action is paramount. Okay. Alexandra?
Two things. You cannot do everything by yourself, and do ask for help. People who are willing to help, we're just forgetting to ask for it.
Wonderful. Indeed. Thank you.
And for me, I think it's kind of like what I've said, like Nike, just do it. I have my friend Cassie there. I remember when she wanted to start her business and she was overthinking and overplanning, and I just kept saying, just do it, just do it, just start. You learn the mistakes and you learn all the things you're supposed to learn on the journey, and there's no kind of loss for me in any entrepreneurship journey. Even if the business ends or the venture ends, it's still a learning process, and you will still have put out something beautiful in the world.
Indeed. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of this wonderful little conversation. I want to thank you for the work that you do and for your contribution and sharing your thoughts. And whether you are an entrepreneur or a becoming entrepreneur, you can always support entrepreneurs, and let's just do it. I would say that's a good motto. And we're coming to the last section of this session. Thank you very much for this wonderful panel. Bukola, thank you. Alexandra, thank you. We have one more to come, and that is Suman Ghimire from Nepal, who is running PlantSat, which provides protection to farmers against agriculture and climate risks. And again, you know how it goes. I'm asking speakers to share a personal detail with me, and he is probably the biggest fan in the world of tigers, and his big dream in life is to see them out in the wild. So hoping that will happen for him. Here is Suman with a little presentation about himself and his work.
Imagine a world where farmers could harness the power of satellite technology. Well, that was our mission when we started PlantSat in 2019. After working on that idea for nearly 2 years with 2,000 farmers, we realized that our B2C model required intense teaching and behavioral change for farmers. That was a challenging task for young startups like ours. That's when we decided to pivot from teaching farmers satellite data to now selling insurance companies similar satellite analytics. We now help insurance companies reduce their operational cost while at the same time we protect farmers from both agriculture and climate risks. Namaste, I'm Suman Ghimire. I'm the founder at PlantSat. And let me tell you a story of a real farmer named Bina Pandey. She's a single mother raising 3 kids, one of which has a serious medical condition. Her farm is her only lifeline, and every day is struggle for her, emotionally, physically, and financially. One day, when her crops were just about to harvest, a powerful storm hit. Everything that she worked on for months was gone. This is the reality of millions of smallholder farmers in Nepal and South Asia who are increasingly facing climate extremes. They might not know the term climate change, but they live with its consequences daily. Now, similar to farmers, insurance companies have their own challenges. The farms in Nepal and in South Asia are either too small or too remote for insurance companies to affordably enroll and verify claims when there is disaster. To give you a perspective, for an insurance company to provide insurance in Nepal, going to the field, validating the farms, the cost of that is higher than the amount of premium they collect. So there's no financial viability in providing insurance to farmers. That's what we are changing. By using satellite data, weather data, geotagged picture data, we enable remote monitoring of farms. In doing so, we reduce the operational cost by 35%. And we are making an ecosystem where insurance companies can go to a remote farm in Nepal and insure farmers with financial viability. Now, let me tell you what happened in Bina's story. After that devastating storm in October of 2022, Bina didn't give up. For the first time in her life, she enrolled in agriculture insurance using PlantSat. And when there was storm again, she was safe. She received compensation she so desperately needed within days, not months. And so far, we've protected thousands of farmers like Bina from climate extreme. Last October of 2024, there was a heavy rainfall in Nepal, heaviest in last 30 years. And we are proud to have protected 1,100 farmers from that climate extreme. And in total, so far, we've protected nearly 7,000 farmers with a protection coverage of $1.54 million US. Now, let's move to cows and buffaloes. So while we were providing service related to agriculture insurance, we were provided with a unique pain point of insurance companies. So whenever one buffalo dies and it's insured, insurance companies receive 5 claims. That's a lot of moral hazard there. Because the local agent and farmers, they take out the air tag, put another air tag, and click picture so that they can claim more. An insurance company asked us, how can you solve this problem? And we started doing some research. And what we found was, similar to our human fingerprint, the nose pattern of cows and buffaloes are unique biometrics. Then we started collecting a lot of data. We have 40,000 plus unique images of cows and buffaloes' nose. and we are using AI, and our model is 97% accurate. So what this does is it opens up a new opportunity for insurance companies. When insurance companies can confidently provide insurance, the coverage will be high. So even farmers in remote areas will be able to access cattle insurance. So to summarize, PlantSat, we are not just solving a technical problem. We are solving a human problem, a problem of vulnerability, of dignity, and of survival. And together with all your support, we are definitely going to make this happen. Thank you so much.
Suman, thank you very much. That's why I personally love ChangeNOW a lot. You always come away with at least one or many more unique facts. I did not know that the nose of cows and cattle are having a unique fingerprint, quote unquote, that you could use to make insurances more efficient. A bit along the similar lines as we had for the panel. What is something that you keep bumping your head against on a daily basis that you wish wasn't so hard in your daily life as an entrepreneur and as a founder? What are some of the struggles and challenges that you can maybe honestly and authentically share with the audience here today?
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of challenges. For me, the most challenge is I'm building a product, insurance product, and most of the farmers, they don't know insurance. So how can I sell to such farmers when they don't know insurance at all? For someone who knows about insurance, they have very bad image about insurance. And for someone who've already done traditional insurance, they would never want to do it again. So it has a bad reputation. So that's one challenge. I have to change that perspective of farmers. And to do so, the only way to do so is to provide a lot of claims. So every day is, although a struggle, but every day what excites me is when I give check to farmers so that they have a safety net and they can bounce back from climate extremes.
Must be very fulfilling to hand out these checks and say, look, you had an insurance and now you get to claim your money. Maybe a step earlier, take us back again, and I think this is interesting for everyone who's considering doing something by themselves, to that moment where you realized this is an interesting challenge and not just this is a problem, but I want to do something about it. What went on in your heart, in your mind? How did you come about doing what you do?
My journey as a change maker started unexpectedly. I never wanted to change anything before, but when I was in Greece for an Erasmus Mundus exchange program, it was a time when there was Syrian refugee crisis there. So I started volunteering with children and with people offering relief materials, organizing art competitions. That's when I realized, and I go back to my university, I was working in forestry. So it lacked human touch, although it had impact. So that's why when I decided my professional career should also have some direct touch with people. And then when I went back, I started seeing a problem with farmers. A lot of them, although they generate food for us, but they don't have a good life. So that moment hit me, and then from that moment on, I have been using tech to solve problems of farmers.
So you've seen a problem firsthand and thought you need to get into action and do something about it. Would you do it again, looking back?
Again and again.
Again and again?
Yeah.
How come you're so confident in saying that? What's the joy that it brings you, the fulfillment, beyond the checks that you can hand out?
Because how I take life is like all of us, we are going to die someday. We don't know when, but sooner or later we have to die, right? So before dying, I want to be remembered for bringing an impact to the life of most vulnerable people who feed us. So that's why I want to do it again and again.
Yeah, thank you very much for the work that you do. Taking it to the very raw and deep and deep level here. Again, whether we are entrepreneurs, are aspiring entrepreneurs, could help an entrepreneur, what would be your 2 or 3 little recommendations for how to get started and overcoming that fear? Because we just learned in the panel before, it's not like entrepreneurs aren't scared of these steps, aren't anxious, aren't having doubts. They're just probably a little better at managing these emotions. But what would you recommend is good steps to get started?
What I would recommend is first figure out a problem worth solving, and also figure another thing out, that the problem market size should be big. So that are the 2 key things that you should understand first, and think like you spend 5 to 10 years. I would say 10 years. 10 years is also a very short time. Don't get demotivated. There will be a lot of challenges, a lot of failures on the way. I have also faced a lot of failures. My satellite data for farmers didn't work out, but never give up. Sooner or later, you will be successful. The universe is designed that way. If you work hard, you will definitely succeed. There's no other option.
The universe is wired to provide the impact that you want to see. That's wonderful. Last quick thing. If you had a minute to broadcast a message to the world, something that you'd love to share, anything to get off your chest, what would that be? I know a big question, so don't feel pressured, but anything that you'd love to share with the audience and the world and everyone watching the recording of this?
Okay. I'd like to reiterate what I said earlier. So how I wake up is like, there was an inspiring thing from Sadhguru. He said, remember that you will die someday every morning. So if you only do that, every moment, every present moment will be so exciting, so happy, and that would also motivate you to do something good for people, good for everyone around you. So I'd like to reiterate that one only.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suman. This was a wonderful presentation and a wonderful conversation, and thank you for the work that you do, and I wish you nothing but the best, and see you around.
Thank you so much.
I'll definitely look more closely.
And thank you for all your valuable time.
Thank you. One last thing that I would love to share with you is that we are running a biannual study called The Possibilists, where we look into the needs and challenges of entrepreneurs to get a better understanding. The last edition included 1,500 entrepreneurs from 130 countries, and it turned out that many of them struggle with mental health and burnout, financial issues, juggling a lot of things at the same time, being in dire need of more support, connections, access to places of people and power. But there's also something really positive. And to share that with you, I'd love to do a quick 15 seconds exercise with you. I want you to imagine a ladder that goes up from the ground. Imagine that as the 0, all the way up to number 10. So it's got 10 little wooden lines, a ladder that you can climb up. If you had to say for yourself, and you don't need to share this, you don't have to speak up, just in your own mind, where do you stand on this ladder from 0, the lowest, to 10, the highest, in terms of your overall life satisfaction and happiness? If you had to give that a number, and I know this is a extreme simplification, but if you had to give it a number, where would you stand on that ladder? And I'll just give you a moment to think about it. Include everything, your personal life, your work, anything that you wish. Where are you on that ladder? Now, the one thing that we found out in our Possibilist study is that despite all these challenges, change makers and purpose-driven entrepreneurs are actually rating way higher than the global average on this ladder. They would give themselves, on average, a very high 7. That is, if you look at all the countries in the world and their life happiness and satisfaction, and if change makers and entrepreneurs were a country, that would be country 15 on a long list of countries. So I want to leave you with this. It's a hard thing to be an entrepreneur, but change making and being a purpose-driven entrepreneur can be a great source of satisfaction and happiness. Thank you very much, and I hope you continue to enjoy Change Now, and we're over and out.